Hello, and welcome to Rescue the Heart. Today, we are going to share the story of a young girl named Sally living in the 1700s. We hope you enjoy it. At just 13 years old, Sally had already gone out to work in the big house. She often remembered the day her family lost her father. It had been bitter cold, with a relentless drizzle hanging in the air. A heavy mist clung to the hills, turning the sky a bleak, endless grey that seemed to add a heavy chill to the day. She remembered the hushed, hurried conversations, the fast-paced footsteps, and the mothers gathering in small groups, crying softly. Everyone prayed the mine collapse wouldn't affect them. They all had children to feed and clothe. What had happened? Who was lost? The agony of not knowing bit into your bones. Dread wrapped them in its suffocating arms. Sleep was impossible that night, and as dawn broke, the news finally arrived. There had been a tunnel collapse at the head of the pit. Sally, only 12 at the time, wasn't considered old enough to stand and mourn with the older women, but was too old to play with the little children. Then the list of the dead went up. Her father's name was on it. Disbelief hit Sally like a physical blow, while her mother simply turned ashen and swayed on her feet. From that moment on, their lives changed completely. In a desperate search for work, the family moved to Devizes. Sally was sent to the big house to learn the trade of a parlour maid, while her mother and younger siblings picked hops in the fields. Every penny of Sally's wages was sent home to feed the family. Even her smallest brother was sent to the cloth factory to replace shuttles, exhausting work for an adult, but children did it for 12 hours a day, just for pennies. As a young housemaid, Sally could expect to earn roughly 2 shillings a week to cook, clean, mend, and look after the children. Now, Sally was perpetually tired. Her back ached from scrubbing floors, and her fingers were raw from cleaning the firesides. But today was Sunday. Dressed in her Sunday best, Sally was required to attend church. She would have much rather slept in or wandered the countryside, but church was mandatory. The building was often freezing in winter and stifling in summer, but today it was simply damp. Sally could smell the rain on the heavy wool coats around her. The service felt endlessly long. She loved the singing, but found the sermon difficult to understand. Still, she had to sit perfectly upright. As the cook always reminded her, "You represent the big house now." Terrified of losing the job her family so desperately needed, she sat stiffly on the hard wooden pew, dreaming of the precious few hours she'd have to herself afterward. It might be a damp, grey day, but Sally was determined to use her fleeting freedom to do whatever she wanted. Finally, the service ended. Sally changed out of her Sunday dress and stepped out into the afternoon. Not far away, a boy named Albert was enjoying his own Sunday off. He worked in the hop gardens and, like Sally, he sent all his wages home to keep his mother and little brothers out of the poorhouse. A few hours away from the back-breaking labour of the fields was a welcome relief, even in the dismal weather. In his line of work, you could never complain of being sore or tired. There were always new boys ready to quickly take your place. Lost in these heavy thoughts and distracted by a bird flying overhead, Albert rounded a corner and crashed right into Sally. She was on her knees, fishing around in a muddy puddle. Startled, Albert snapped, "Watch what you're doing! I could have fallen over you." It wasn't the greatest introduction, but Sally just looked up at him, tears welling in her eyes. In her hands she held a tiny tabby kitten, a wet, cold, barely breathing bundle of skin and bones. Seeing her tears, Albert softened. He remembered the time his own little brother had fallen into a pond and how his mother had vigorously dried him and bundled him up to save him from the chill. Springing into action, Albert took off his cap and used it to gently dry the frail creature. "You have to get it warm," he urged. Sally tucked the kitten under her blouse, pulling her thick woolen shawl tightly around her chest. She could feel the icy chill of its tiny body, but beneath it all, she felt a fluttering heartbeat. It was still alive. Regaining her composure, Sally whispered, "Thank you." To her, this gruff boy was a hero. Slowly, cocooned in the warmth of Sally's chest, the kitten began to stir. Sally breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe, just maybe, the poor thing could be saved from drowning in that muddy puddle. Albert put his damp cap back on his head. Having only ever dealt with working farm animals, he awkwardly explained what his mother had done for his brother, hoping the same logic applied to cats. Sally assured him she would do just that. Suddenly, a tiny sneeze squeaked from inside Sally's shawl. The sound broke the tension, making them both laugh. Albert walked Sally back to the big house. They didn't speak much, but a comfortable, peaceful silence settled between them. As they reached the staff gate, Sally realized she didn't even know his name. "Goodbye and thank you," she called out, hurrying her bundle indoors. "What's your name?" "I'm Albert," he shouted back, turning toward his farm. He hoped he might see her again next Sunday, and promised himself that next time he would talk to her properly. Sally rushed straight into the warm kitchen. By now, the little tabby was warming up well, its matted fur beginning to dry. It gave a soft, weak mew. The cook, a plump, good-natured woman who ran a strict but fair kitchen, took in the scene, a distressed parlour-maid clutching a mangy kitten. Cook was used to feral working cats that hunted rats in the barns, but this was different. Sally blurted out the whole story. She had found it drowning, and she couldn't just let it die. Not after she had just sat through church. Moved by her plea, Cook agreed to hide the kitten in the storeroom for now, until she could speak with the head butler about what to do with it. She had Sally fetch a small pan of milk, warmed it by the fire, added a few scraps of chicken, and offered it to the kitten. The tiny animal devoured it as though it hadn't eaten in a lifetime. Now full and warm, the little tabby curled up on a bed of clean cloths inside a vegetable box. Tucking him safely in the storeroom, Sally hurried off to change. The main meal would be served soon, and she had to be ready. In time, the kitten grew strong and plump. The house kept him, and he grew into the best mouser they had ever seen. With his sleek tabby coat and bright green eyes, he was certainly glad he had been found that rainy afternoon. As for Sally and Albert, they remained good friends, often meeting in that very same lane on their Sunday afternoons off. That one simple act of kindness toward a helpless kitten had brought a lasting blessing to the house, its staff, and two hard-working children far from home. We hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please consider donating to a worthwhile charity, either ours or one local to you. And please remember to like and share. It truly helps us out.